Hey, welcome to the Two Dudes Talk Movies podcast. I'm Luke.
I'm Griffin.
And we are back again with our first guest episode of the semester. We are here with Joe Pointer.
Hi, I'm Joe. I'm a sophomore at ARU, and I'm a geography major.
Nice.
And I'm glad to be here today.
Good to have you.
So the movie we're talking about today is 500 Days of Summer, which stars Joseph Gordon-Levitt as Tom Hansen and Zoe Deschanel, I hope I'm pronouncing your last name right, I'm sorry, as Summer, who are the two co-workers at a gift card company that end up...
Just a regular card company, like greeting cards.
Greeting card. It's a
Not a
card
gift
company. Where they work is less important than anything else in this movie. But yeah, so these two co-workers, right, kind of go in this roundabout love thing where it's not ever clearly defined, and it's across the span of 500 days, hence the title. And it's just their experience. But since it's a guest episode, that means that Joe has chosen this movie. So Joe, can you tell us a little bit about why you chose this movie?
I'd say I choose this movie because of really how it just narrates itself. It's not a love story. It's not a love story. It's a cynical masterpiece where it's just interesting in so many ways. And honestly, it's more of a romance sort of comedy kind of movie. And rom-coms are pretty cool, I think.
Yeah, I found that very interesting too. Like at the start of the movie, the narration just immediately says this isn't a romance movie.
Right.
It just kind of gets right to it.
It puts that idea in your head immediately.
Yeah. And speaking of getting right to it, Joe, do you want to start off and tell us a little bit about what you like about the film?
What I like about the film is that it's it's real. It could be relatable for some people because it's in the movie, Tom sometimes doesn't know what he wants, and in the movie sometimes Summer doesn't know what she wants also. And I would say that this movie is just interesting and kind of emotional in most ways.
Mm-hmm.
It's definitely very psychological because it's they both have their own struggles and they're trying to see each other, being with each other and stuff, but it's very complicated for them because Summer just doesn't know what she wants, and neither does Tom.
Yeah, that stood out to me immediately watching it, was just the mixed signals of everything. I feel like it really highlights that well, where it's not really clear what anybody really wants at all throughout the movie. You get little hints of it here and there, but for the most part, everything's kind of murky. And I think that was kind of the goal with this movie, I'd argue. And the narration supports that a lot too, with just kind of this melancholy, depressed vibe that it gives off.
Yeah, kind of just going off that, nobody in this movie knows what they really, really want. At first, Tom kind of wants a relationship, but, Summer says she doesn't want a boyfriend. But, they kind of, stick together as, friends anyway. But at the same time, it's they do stuff that, friends wouldn't really do. So it kind of irks the whole thing. Yeah,
and I think the actors really, really sell this movie because both of them know how to act alive but dead inside at the exact same time.
Yeah.
And it's such a fine skill to be able to convey that in a strong way where you just genuinely believe it. I know Gordon-Levitt's work more than Deschanel's. I'm still so sorry if I'm mispronouncing that. I'm pretty sure it's Deschanel. But I'm more familiar with Gordon-Levitt's work, and I know that he can pull it off, so I didn't have any doubt in my mind about him going into it. But the more that I saw Deschanel as Summer go through this, their chemistry together of being able to have these moments where they're genuinely happy with each other, but then also these moments where they're just so depressed and just hate everything about life is a nice juxtaposition.
So I would say the movie is really non-linear in some way, because if you think about it, love can be non-linear. It could be messy, relationship, like Summer said, relationships can be messy, and that's true. I mean, whatever you want to believe, but I mean, like, I think it's true. It's like relationships are messy, and you know, just anything like romantically can have its ups and downs, its losses, and its way of just showing how like deep it can get.
Yeah. And with it being messy, this is something I didn't like. Not that it was messy, but more so the pacing of it, because, and I can go in depth with this more, but it's covering 500 days, right? The movie starts out and you're at the tail end, like in the last third or so, let's say. And then you kind of cut around to like the earlier parts of the 500 days. And then from there, you sporadically jump forward, double back, and then jump ahead again. And I think that does get a point, or across the point of being kind of messy and showing just like how much this relationship is fluctuating throughout it. But to me, the pacing of it was a problem with that, because I was finding it hard to get a clear sense of time, especially in certain scenes where it'll fade to black and then fade back in. And very clearly you can tell in the background and like on their costumes that some form of time has passed, but you have no idea. It could have been a day, it could have been a week.
Yeah. I did kind of have issues with it being nonlinear. Like sometimes it was kind of hard to tell like what day was what, and just following along with that was a little complicated. But I also do think like the nonlinear storytelling kind of like shows love in a way, because like sometimes it can kind of show like how memories work. Like you remember a lot of the good stuff, and then you also remember a lot of the bad stuff. And you remember, and obviously you remember all of that like out of order. So it's just kind of like showing like a passage in time as you might remember something as it happens.
Like you said earlier, I do not really like the fact how like the movie just definitely just jumps around. I like to call those kinds of movies like pay attention movies, where it's like you have to keep track of like what's happening in the story or like what's happening in the movie. And it's like, because it jumps around from, it's for example, the 100 days versus the 400 days and the whole 500 days.
Yeah, I feel like I get a little insufferable to be around at times with that, because like for me, any movie, even if it's absolutely you got to be locked in. My girlfriend gets annoyed with me every now and then if we're watching a movie and like she gets on her phone for something. I'm like, girl, like lock in. And she's like, bro, I'm checking email. And I'm like, I don't care. We're at the movie.
Like,
but
I don't care. Watch the
yeah, like, yeah, I get a little insufferable with that. I care a lot about like locking in on movies, but I do get that point. And despite me not really caring for the pacing and the way it jumps around, I love the creativity in this movie. It really shows in the cinematography's framing. A lot of this is shot in, what did I write down? Wide framing whenever you're in the present, but then when you get to these like older past shots,
past moments.
Yes. Or you get these like meta dream
Memories.
Sequence things.
Yeah.
I don't really know what they're, I guess dream is probably just the best
Dreams, memories,
example for that. Yeah.
However you want to interpret it. But
your framing shifts from this wide colored present shot to a more squared black and white shot. I think there's some nice juxtaposition and difference and balance between those. But then you also get like, you know, one square here and then another square here, and there's that border line in the middle between them as they fade in, and then some will like overtake the other scene or vice versa. So there's just a lot of playing around with the framing, and the camera plays into that too, where there are a majority of the scenes filmed pretty slow and steady, but then as things keep progressing, you get these more handheld, shaky shots that just kind of show the relationship falling apart, basically.
Yeah, and like also during like the opening credits scene, like you see like the childhood of both Tom and Summer too, and those are both shot like they're like shot on film or like on a home video camera, VHS kind of a thing.
And a lesser point with the cinematography, but it ties in a little bit, is I love the like score, but also the needle drops in this movie.
Yeah,
they're so fun. And maybe I'm just an instant fold for needle drops because James Gunn has conditioned me in such a way. But no, the scene where like Tom is walking through like the park in City and everybody's doing this huge dance number. It's all really colorful. The song's playing over it. Like That's probably one of the more memorable scenes of the movie that I see people talk about.
I do like remember that scene just being like very like joyful and happy and stuff like that. And I just remember like after all that happens, like the little dance scene with like all those other like side characters, as I guess you can call them,
Like the background extras.
yeah. And just like that whole dance, it's way different than like after when he goes to work and he just looks like a truck just went through him.
Yeah.
Like it's
Got absolutely ran over on the highway. But
yeah, it looks devastating for him.
Yeah.
And then like I just find it interesting because it's like how the filters change, like the color filters in the movie, like in the good scenes in the movie where it's like more like joyful, like good colors, like positive colors, and then towards like the disappointing or devastating scenes, it's more like
gloomy. Almost.
yeah, gloomy. Yeah, that's the word.
I do like the cinematography of itself, but like the kind of like the way it was set up. Like I noticed there's like a lot of medium shots and like, you know, a lot of like waist up shots of a lot of people. I felt like that kind of got a little bit repetitive after a while, but
Explain.
it's gonna be a tough one to explain. But like a lot of the scenes, like they looked good, but it's just like how it just seemed like it was just two people talking kind of just side by side. There was a lot of that. And I get like a lot of the movie is kind of like about like that. You know, it's a very talkative movie, obviously, because it's, you know, relationships and all that. But like at the same time, it's just kind of like it's framed a little like you feel like you've seen this shot before, kind of.
Yeah, I can understand that, especially because how we were saying when it jumps back and forth and how, Joe, you mentioned the coloring of everything. It does get to a point where it happens like that pretty consistently after you get maybe like, 30 minutes in the movie, if even.
Pretty much.
So, yeah, I can definitely see that being the case. Wasn't really something that dragged it down for me, though, personally.
Yeah, not really for me either. It's just, I just kind of noticed that kind of thing.
The other thing that did drag this down for me a little bit, and it's a minor complaint because he does learn, but Tom's kind of an idiot. This is like entire movie. And every time his sister shows up to like basically be his therapist is the funniest thing to me.
I find it interesting how he's taking advice from his younger sister, but she kind of knows the situation. I mean, just like because like one scene where he was in the apartment smashing plates on the countertop, which you probably remember, and she like comes into the frame. And he just like stops. He's like, "Wait, why are you here? You're here to help me." Like she said, like, "Oh, I'm here to help you," and then he tells the whole story.
Yeah, and I think that kind of ties into like Tom's character just not being a great guy, and like you can have that and it works, and I think it does here. Like I think that's the point this movie tries to make as well, is that both Tom and Summer are equally terrible people. And we'll circle back to that in the deep thought as well, but. Yeah, he's just kind of dumb. Like, how, I don't know, because I keep watching it, and every time he, like, talks with his sister or whatever, I'm like, how in the world is your, what is she, like, 12-year-old sister or something like that? She's playing middle school soccer. How is she more emotionally intelligent than you are, my guy? You are hired. You have your own apartment. Like, you're smashing plates, for God's sake. Like,
you're in your 20s. Get a hold of yourself.
Exactly.
Not even his 20s, his late 20s.
Late 20s. So it's worse.
This is after college.
Oh, man. Yeah, he's
Joy to the world.
I don't know. Tom's kind of a loser in the movie. I'm not gonna lie.
Well, I mean, I would say he's a loser, but I mean, he's definitely like not really good at like trying to understand what Summer is trying to get out of him, and that like where he gets attached over the little things.
Right.
I feel like he's more of a hopeless romantic, you could say.
Yeah, I think that's a good point.
What do you think?
I can see it. Because he's definitely more attached and interested in Summer than she is of him. And I'm ready for a deep thought too, so we can get into that more here in a second if you guys are ready for that. But I do think that he's very much a hopeless romantic, more so on the hopeless end than romantic.
Yeah, if you looked up hopeless romantic in the dictionary, there would be a picture of Tom right there. I mean, the man, he wants a relationship, but he doesn't really know how to communicate that very well, I feel. And it's just like he's just chasing after Summer for like the entire movie.
Yeah. And no offense to the creatives for this movie either. I know the author's note at the very beginning says Summer, like, it's not directly calling Summer out, but Summer is very heavily based on one of the writer's like actual girlfriends from the time. So like, not trying to diss you, but you kind of suck, whoever you're based on.
Like,
but
all characters in this film are fiction. Anyone based off of reality is pure coincidence, except you, Stephanie. And then
yeah. Well, is there anything else you want to talk about before we get into some deep thought?
Sure. Or no, yeah. Go ahead with the deep thought.
Joe, you got anything?
I don't think I have anything. I'd say go for it.
Alrighty. So, tying in with the hopeless romantic stuff a little bit, and just kind of how both characters are not really great people. Also, spoiler warning for the ending because this involves it. But we get to the end, and we end up seeing that Summer has finally married somebody after repeatedly saying that she was never interested in that sort of thing to Tom. And Tom just kind of feeling unsure of everything or whatever, and finally like asks her while they're sitting there, like, why are you married, basically? Like, why, after all this time, you never wanted that with me or whatever. And Summer responds saying, I'm sure with him of what I wasn't with you, or something along that line. So my question is, what do you think Summer was sure of with her husband, but not with Tom?
I think like she kind of like found that spark with her current husband over what she had with Tom. Because I mean, with Tom, their entire situation was just messy. Like, both of them were not committed. Both of them were just kind of like iffy on what they wanted. But like, I think with her husband, like, they both knew what they wanted out of each other. Whereas with Tom, neither of them knew what they wanted out of each other.
Interesting. Yeah. Joe, what do you think?
I feel like that she definitely changed throughout the film, like her perspective about like love, you could say, because like she said, oh, we're just going to save the fun stuff for now and then save the serious stuff for later. Mm-hmm. And of course, later she got serious. She got married and Tom moved on. Well, sort of.
Yeah, very much a hopeless romantic. Bro did not move on.
Not very well.
Not well, anyway. He kind of does, but
I do like how he like did like move on towards the end of the movie, where he got a new job. He went into architecture like he wanted to, like he studied, and he had goals. Mm-hmm. He had goals, and those kinds of goals just like can make you feel better about yourself, and like because he was working on himself, but he was still kind of fixated on that past, on that like fantasy, fantasy you can call it, with like Summer.
And what could have been.
Yeah, what could have been, what would have been, and it just didn't happen.
Yeah, I feel like my answer to this question is very precise because the film kind of lays it out for you in the third act, where the whole movie you're kind of meant to go through it watching and kind of sympathize for Tom almost, where like it's really mixed signals, Summer's not sure of what she wants. She keeps sending Tom mixed signals.
Right.
But then you get to this point where Tom goes on this random date with somebody that just to try and get his mind off of Summer, right? And during this date, the other person asks him important questions, and well, I can't remember them verbatim right now because I didn't write it down, but they basically end up revealing that throughout the entire time of Tom and Summer being together, Tom never really stopped pursuing her, despite the very clear signals she didn't want it. Where she was like, oh, I don't want a relationship. I'm not looking for anything serious. And then, Tom just like kept going for it. So to kind of answer that question, I think that what she was sure of with her husband is that her husband actually like cared about what she thought. And Tom didn't really do that as much because as we get this montage of Tom looking back on moments with Summer, it's very clear that he was just not considerate of what Summer was trying to make clear to him, where she wasn't interested. There's a scene where they both exit, I think it's a movie, I want to say, and Summer's kind of distraught for a minute, and she's like, I'm kind of tired. I just want to go home. Like, I'm not feeling great, whatever. And he was like, well, we could go to dinner. Like, like we could just go get food or something. And she's like, no, I don't really want to, whatever. And then she kind of like turns away, right? And Tom just stands there and stares at her for a minute and then kind of like looks up, looks out at the street, and then looks back and he's like, oh, I got it. I know a great food place to go to. And then they end up going to the food place. So instead of just letting Summer go, he keeps like, I don't know if toxic's the right word, but he keeps like obsessing over it.
Yeah.
And I think that's what my answer would be, is that Summer's husband isn't obsessed with her the way Tom is.
And kind of like going back to that date scene that Tom had with that other woman, he was pretty much like, first thing he said to her was basically like, hey, like nothing's gonna like come of this at all. And she's just like, okay. And she goes on the date anyway. So when he's like explaining the whole story, like she asks him like, did she ever cheat on you? No. Did she like harm you in any way? No. And it's just kind of like, she kind of realizes in that moment, like, okay, this guy's a little weird. Not that we didn't know that already, but at the same time, it's like, you can see, it's like, why is Tom trying to go out when he's clearly still obsessed over Summer as well?
It's kind of like an unreliable protagonist, more so than a narrator, because Tom's not the person narrating this. The narrator's just some
random dude.
Omniscient.
Yeah.
I think omniscient's the right word.
Some random.
Yeah, some guy external to everything. And you go through the majority of the movie following Tom's perspective of events and trying to feel for him. And then, the third act kind of realizes like, hey, maybe both characters are just not great people for each other.
I could see that like towards like the middle of the film, when it got like a little bit gloomy and stuff, I would say that Tom was definitely frustrated. He had every right to be frustrated, I think. I mean, about like his whole feelings about Summer and that how like she was kind of like playing with his feelings, and he has every right to be frustrated or kind of angry about it. But the problem is that he takes that anger on his work, his basically just everyday life, and then he ends up getting fired from his. Well, he actually is
quits.
quitting.
Yeah.
He quits. Sorry, yeah, he
storms
quits.
out of there, and he's like,
Storms
"What
out
even
of
is
there.
love? What does that mean?" But
Yeah, it gets all like sad and depressed in some way, saying like, "Oh, what is love? Love has no meaning," and like it's just the way he was, just the way he felt.
And that's why I used melancholy as a way to describe this towards the start of the episode, because it genuinely is a deeper level of depression between characters. But with that being said, I'm out of notes. Do either of you have anything else you want to talk about before we move into ratings?
I would like to add something.
Go for it.
The movie plays a role where it's like, it's honest. Like sometimes like love can be very messy and nonlinear and just have its ups and downs. Like, of course, I said before, but it teaches you more about its absence than in its presence.
Can you elaborate on that?
So love in its absence, like I said, it teaches you more about its absence than in its presence. What I mean by that is that like it shows you that love can be messy and nonlinear, and how like it can lead to just something that is either more or not. And it just shows that like it's an interesting feeling. I mean, it's more of like a connection. And if they don't have that spark, if Summer and Tom didn't have that spark that was meant to be, then it's not meant to be.
Yeah. It
It's
kind
just,
of
you have to go with the flow.
it kind of reminds me of like the what is it? It's like the stereotype of like your first love hurts you or something like that. This relationship here very much reminds me of that. But when we get to the ending, like the very, very end, when Tom starts hitting on Autumn and trying to set up time to talk to her, the last shot of this movie is him breaking the fourth wall and then smirking. And knowing what we know from the third act about him just not being considerate of Summer's feelings and like what she tried to make clear that she wanted, to me, I interpreted it as he was going to go ahead and make the same mistake again with Autumn. And he was going to do the same thing where he's not going to be considerate. But I don't know if that's just me.
On another note to add, sometimes I would say this. I'm going to look off my notes here. Sometimes the person who breaks your heart gives you back your future. And that's a very, like, kind of relatable, like, feeling that probably some people have. I mean, when they break your heart, I mean, you have to go with the flow. It hurts. Love hurts. It does. But it can be beautiful and yet so confusing at the same time.
Well, with that, I think we are ready for our ratings, correct?
Yeah.
Yep.
All right. Joe, since you chose the movie, you can go first. What did you think of the movie?
I give the movie a...
Out of 5. I should probably clarify out
Yes.
of 5.
Sorry.
Yeah.
I give it a 4.
All right. Can you explain a little bit why? Just a brief recap.
Mostly just like because when I first saw it, I'm be honest here, it was a tearjerker for me. I mean, it really just like it's really just a masterpiece in like some way because it's like it just shows how like love can be complicated. Like in that movie, like we've all felt those kinds of feelings, like where we didn't know what, like Tom doesn't know what he wants, and Summer doesn't know what she wants, and then the connection kind of breaks off. And I bet you, it's been a relatable like feeling for some people, for sure.
Griffin, what do you
Yes.
think?
I would give this film a 4.5 out of 5.
A little bit higher. A little bit higher.
Tad bit high. I was surprised Joe gave it a 4 out of 5. I thought he would give it a little bit higher. What do I know? So I'd say for my rating, it just kind of shows like not all love is like meant to be, and like not all love, like love's gonna be messy, like, and sometimes you just kind of have to go with the flow. And I think the movie shows that really well.
All right.
And so Luke, what
Yeah.
would you rate this movie?
I'm going to agree with Joe, and I'm going to give it a 4 out of 5, I think. I do think it is a great movie. I'm mainly a fan of just how creative the filmmaking in it is with the framing and the characters, well, more the actors than the characters, but the actors just being able to capture being alive and dead at the same time is just impeccable to me. Like I said earlier, I know Gordon Levitt's been good for it, so I was never worried about his performance. And this channel I really only know from I want to say New Girl, but I don't remember. But yeah, I was surprised by her. I think she did a good job. Only things I didn't really vibe with was just kind of the pacing. I wish it didn't jump around as much. Like, I understand why it did, but it just kind of felt hard to track, especially in the first like 10 to 15 minute range, where you're bouncing from one end of the 500 days to the very other, and then somewhere in the middle, and then going back. Like, it's a lot. And then even though it's a minor complaint, I didn't really vibe with Tom's sister being the one to like be his therapist almost and like kind of educate him on love. Cause like there are supporting characters in this that are best friends of Tom's, and they have like nothing to contribute other than just, you're going to a pit, man. You're going into a pit. It's not good for you. Get out while you can.
That's their only role like throughout the entire movie.
Yeah. And then anything like actually helpful comes from this 12-year-old or however old she is. And I'm like, it's silly, but like,
It kind of
yeah, I feel like that's kind of the point. It's just, to me, I was like, I would have wished if like there were some actual adults in the film almost, if that makes sense.
I would say that Tom's friends definitely did not like contribute to his like feelings towards summer. It was like where like they would only say, "Oh man, you're going down a dark path, and it's not gonna look good. It's not gonna be pretty, Tom." And it's like, but Tom's like ignoring what they had to say, and he's like, "Oh, I'm in love with her. I'm in love with Summer. I'm in love with her hair and everything that she does, and blah blah blah." And I find that very interesting. And then towards like in the middle of the film, it gets to like where, oh, I hate Summer. I hate the way she dresses. I hate the way she laughs. I hate the way her haircut is and stuff like that. It's almost ironic.
Well, Joe, I appreciate you coming on the
Yes.
podcast, taking
Yes.
time on your Monday night as we're recording. You're seeing it on Friday, obviously. But yeah, thank you for coming out. We appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
Give a
Yes.
shout out to Joe. Well, that is it for this episode of Two Dudes Talk Movies podcast. If you have any movie suggestions, feel free to leave them in the comments below. I'm sure we can get around to it. For the time being, I'm Luke,
I'm Griffin.
and we will see you next week. Bye.